Good morning, everyone. Thank you for all coming out and helping us launch our ANU 2025 strategic plan. Before I begin, I'd like to invite Paul House to welcome us to country. Paul?
Mandanguwu and Wurrugawurri, Brian, thank you. Naramarang, Mayin Maranyam, good morning, everyone. Baladu Yari, Nyambri, Wogalu, Wiradjuri Niang. I speak Nyambri, Wogalu, Wiradjuri language. Yuandu, Paul House Giroa. My name is Paul House Giroa. Nadu, Maradu Marai Biringu, Gujigangu, Nyambri, Nurumbango. I was born here at the centre of my ancestral country, at the Old Canberra Hospital. God bless it. Yilingalangbu, Gibabango, Wugabu, Migabu, Dira Nilbang Mayin. Ladies and gentlemen, young men, young women, distinguished guests, Vice-Chancellor Brian Schmidt, Chancellor Julie Bishop, Dr. Peter Yu, Dr. Anne Martin, Marinya, everyone. Nyari Njamali, Nyambri, Gumal, Wogalu, Wallablawa, Nunawa, Mujigang, Yanangbu Jayandu. My respects to Nyambri, Gumal, Wogalu, Wallablawa, elders past and present. Nyari Njamarabu, Mujigango, Nurumbanjiguwu, Ninya Yiridu. My respects to all people from all parts of the country here today. Nyambri, Nunawa, Gaimbanya, Ninyoga, Nurumbango Dara, Nyambri, Nunawa people, welcome you all to country. The name Canberra is derived from the name of our ancestral group and people, the Nyambri. This place right here, the ANU, takes its name, sits on the place, a sacred landscape of our ancestors. Mamba wara naminyagu, wujagabinya, wuda daraigu, winingalagu baligu, looking to see and listening to hear and learning to understand. Nadu wudagabigi, guinguliala, dambali now, muruwe marambu. We listen to the old people and they point us in the right direction. Guinguliala, walamali now, yamamali now, bilangali now. They protect us, they guide us, they take care of us. Yinja Malgiri, Yinja Marabu, respecting, respected. Yinja Mara Magagiri, Biringabo, Gongu, Diranda, Nyambra Nunawadara. Respect can be found in the journey of the Bogong moths in the mountains. And Yinja Mara Walla, Balamwanga Dabu, Muranmadan Dabu, Bamayu, Gurungambira. Respect can be found in the grinding stones and the carved trees made long ago on country. Yinja Mara Balabirada, Binabira, Nyambri, Julang, Nurumbango. Respect can be found in the Nyambri Creek that flows through the ANU. Our welcome to countries are made in the spirit of peace and a desire for harmony for all peoples of the modern ACT and surrounds. And our main aim as local custodians is to establish an atmosphere of mutual respect through the acknowledgement of our ancestors and the recognition of our rights to declare a special place in the pre and post history of the region. We have cared for Mother Earth since the dawn of time, and evidence of our statehood, our sovereignty, our ownership can be seen everywhere throughout Nurumbango Dara Bila, the land and the waters. Our signature is in the land, not just our DNA, and taking care of country is important to us all. Muramwaginya Yinjamara Muramuru Wirimbiradara, a respectful way of life, living a respectful way of life, cares for country. Yinjamara Wirimbira Marandogobo, Gieragobo, Yandogobo. Respect is taking responsibility for the now, the past, the present, and the future. We want to see our children grow up in a society that acknowledges, respects, and honours the First Nation people of this country. We believe we're entitled to a greater share in the wealth and prosperity as well in this country. Our people who through law and custom hold cultural knowledge, and we continue to maintain deep respect for our ancestral lands and waters. The more we look after the land and the waters, the more the land and the waters look after us. Respect everything living and growing. In conclusion, the law of the land talks about Yinja Mara Mara Mara, Nia Ninya Girama Marnya, respect that shapes us and lifts up the people. It's great to be here to be able to help launch the ANU 2025 strategic plan. And I wanted to share with you the motto of the ANU, which in English means first to know the nature of things. In language, I wanted to share with you some words that connect from our people connect through our land and waters and the old people. And the words around first to know the nature of things. Winingadu Yambawan Mawang Balo Nara Nara Muraban. So it translates to first to know the nature of things. And I think it's important that we embed our languages into everything we do today. It's part of the Voice Treaty and part of the truth-telling story of country. Our language is in the land, everywhere we look. Language is everywhere. Our language comes from Mother Earth. So with that, I'm going to play a welcome song on the Yidaki as part of this celebration of the strategic plan. So, Wurrugawuri, Mandangu, and Maimak, Yongomara. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, and for that warm welcome to country, which we so appreciate. I would also like to celebrate and pay my respects to the Ngunnawal Ngambri people of the Canberra region and to all First Nations Australians on whose traditional lands we work and meet and whose cultures are among the oldest continuing cultures in human history. And how marvelous to have our motto, first to know the nature of things, rendered in the Wagaloo Wiradjuri language. The original motto, of course, is written in Latin, which is described often as an ancient language here on campus, but it wasn't even, it's 18 or 19 millennia after the language of that Paul has just told us about. That is a truly ancient language, and it is great for you to share, and I'd like to figure out how to incorporate that into what we do here at ANU over the coming months and years. Our respect for traditional knowledge is boundless because of what it tells us about the human condition, spirituality, and the land we live on. And there is so much more to learn now that we truly have started to listen. And we're proud that ANU has amongst its alumni eminent national leaders like Professors Marcia Langton and Megan Davis, who have done so much for the First Nations cause. And we're proud that our students were there lending support to landmark actions in the history of our country, like the establishment of the first tent embassy in Canberra. But before I continue, I also want to acknowledge today may be a hard day for many of us. It is the anniversary of the Australian Human Rights Commission report published in 2017, and you may have seen signage on the university today. We have a number of our community here demanding that ANU does better, as they should. So today, I want to say I and the university will continue to listen, to continue to learn, to continue to act, but acknowledge the pain and acknowledge that we are nowhere near where we need to be at this time. I know that this anniversary causes distress for many of you. Reflecting on Paul's address, it shows us that the traditional cultures and modern university cultures are united by the same thing, a very human thing, the unquenchable desire to understand. The first Australians have been seeking to understand the world for tens of thousands of years. And we've only been at it here at ANU for 75. But they are a 75 years we can be proud of. You can only achieve as much as we have in so short a time through intellectual excellence. Australia is blessed with many fine universities. All serve our country brilliantly. But the ANU has a special role as Australia's national university. Our history reflects the story of post-war Australia. So let me just reflect. As I said, this is a tough day for many of our community. And it is an act that we've just seen that I take very seriously. And I actually commend our students for the respect they have shown to this thing. But they have made their point, and we should all take it seriously. So thank you to our students for holding us account, because we need to be held account. And we're proud to be held account, unlike other institutions in this country. Our history reflects the story of post-war Australia. We were founded on the 1st of August, 1946, with the participation of 4 Australian intellectual titans: Howard Florey, Marcus Oliphant, Ross Hancock, and Raymond Firth. Our first degree, awarded in 1951, was to Sir Robert Garran, one of the founding fathers of Federation. Our first undergraduates arrived in 1960, and our first woman professor, she was in mathematics, was, of course, Hannah Neumann, appointed in 1964. The first ANU student to become Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, studied here in the 50s, and the second, Kevin Rudd, in the 70s and 80s. Our chancellors have included some of the most eminent statespeople our country has produced, including our 38th Foreign Minister of Australia, our current Chancellor, the Honorable Julie Bishop. Our work has raised up our democracy, our government, public policy, our economy, our culture, and the welfare of our people. We have given Australia a global voice, and we have empowered Australia to be part of the leading edge of the creation of scientific knowledge. That is exactly why we have been so successful of a place where Nobel Prize winners actually did their work, including Eccles, Hersani, Doherty, and Zinkernagel. Our globally renowned scientists sit, of course, alongside some of the finest philosophers, economists, engineers, anthropologists, historians, and a whole cacophony of others on campus, all in the size of a village. Their work has shaped modern Australia in significant ways. The great opening of Australia to the world that began in the 1980s, opening up our economy, culminating in the founding of APEC, was a co-creation between ANU policy experts and the Australian Public Service. A pioneering group of economists from ANU played a crucial role over decades. Critics and historians like A.D. Hope and Manning Clark helped create our nation's modern culture and narrative. Wang Gungwu connected Australia to the reemergence of Asia to our north. Thinkers and strategists in international relations such as Squirrel Bell and Des Ball, whose ideas and research didn't just change perspectives, but gave ANU a seat at the decision-making tables on the great issues of our time, including nuclear warfare. These are just a few examples of the thousands of ANU people who have helped change our world for the better. Many people sitting with us here today have or will. On that note, I think it would be good to share a snapshot of some of the incredible work our academics are undertaking at this moment. So we'll play a short video. ANU was founded 75 years ago in response to a global crisis, the end of World War II, founded as a resource to the nation. Today is no different. Now, more than ever, as Australia's national university, it is up to us to help navigate disruption as we emerge from another global crisis and to continue to deliver on our critical mission.
Food security is a societal problem. We've got a responsibility to have enough food for each other. It's an environmental problem. We've got to do it with the least impact on the planet, and it's actually a global security problem. By 2050, we've got to increase production by about 60%. How we're looking to do that is to increase the energy efficiency of plants.
To deal with climate change, we need to decarbonize global energy, industrial and transport systems. That's what we address in our research. How can we decarbonize and how can we do it in a way that is economically beneficial, that aids with the renewal of our industrial systems? And how can we decarbonize in a way that benefits Australia's regional development?
My research deals with religion and politics, and I look at particularly how religion and politics affect the Middle East.
So the biggest challenge for Australia is managing this crowded horizon of risk that the nation faces, whether it's great power competition, whether it's COVID, climate, political violence.
Our research team builds and engineers components that can be used to improve crop productivity and how crops perform in challenging environments. And we build components that can be inserted into separation technologies so you can turn waste liquids into valuable resources.
If we want to transform the way that we use energy, we need to use solar not just to produce electricity, but to produce energy for everything that we use in society. And to do this, we need to make solar energy more efficient and cheaper. So we're using new materials and nanotechnology to create world-leading efficiency solar cells.
ANU Institute for Space is the front door to ANU space capability. And underneath the Institute, we have access to 42 research schools and all of the space infrastructure that ANU can bring to the table. So we have experts on mission specialists in everything from bushfire mitigation to advanced communications to satellite design and to space law.
So what we're really doing in this intellectual property space with our Indigenous-led research is that we're creating those opportunities to really navigate the space of difficult and complex systems. That's what we do well in ANU. We really are great at problem solving.
We bring new technologies like virtual reality into the classroom because we want to stimulate and engage our students. We want them to be active participants in their learning journey.
ANU isn't just any university, it's the national university, and that means we have a whole set of responsibilities, not just to our own scholarship and our own ideas, but to our country and to our citizens and to our region.
This is the place in the national capital where ideas and research and thinking enmesh with the real-world challenges of policy.
In a time of uncertainty, the university becomes especially important because, our whole job is looking for truth. So that's what we're trained for, that's what we're trained to do. We're trained to draw connections between things. We're trained to get good people together to work on problems. And we're trained to do it with a certain amount of critical distance from the day-to-day operations so we can look for truth without getting wrapped up in a lot of the problems that, say, politicians or other kinds of professionals might have to deal with.
So what we always do, whether it's through education or research or outreach, is we bring people together. We bring people together and enable them to think differently about things. So whether we bring students together who come from different countries, different religions, different ethnic backgrounds, they learn together. They learn to engage with each other. They learn to understand the world from each other's point of view. And that's the critical thing that we do as a university. And we encourage people to think for themselves. We give them the skills to think for themselves, and we challenge them. And that enables us, and should enable us, I think, to help shape new futures for all of us. I mean, we're living in an extraordinarily terrible, awful time in many, many ways. But as a university, we have an opportunity to shape the future in a new way, and that is incredibly important and really exciting.
ANU has a special mission as our country's first and only national university. We were established by an Act of the Federal Parliament to be an intellectual powerhouse that could respond to and solve major national and international challenges. Over the past 75 years, we have delivered for communities across Australia and our region. And with our world-leading academics and our highly talented students, we will continue to fulfil our founding mission.
Well, I'm always inspired when I get to meet our staff and our students. And so, of course, that's just the tip of the iceberg. For everyone up there, there's 50 more of us out to change the world in our own way. So I hope you all get that same kind of, I guess, goosebumps that I feel listening to our staff and how they're changing the world. And that is why I am proud today to launch our new strategic plan, ANU by 2025, which you've all helped develop over the last 6 months, probably in some sense, maybe more involvement than some of you would like, but we have included a simple one-page guide to the plan here today just to kind of get it all in front of us in one place. Ultimately, the plan summarizes where we're going to focus our efforts collectively over the next 5 years, renewing our national mission to keep education and research at the service of the nation to transform our society and to deliver greater national capability. And our plan sets twin goals of delivering a student experience equal to the world's best and making ANU an equitable and inclusive university of choice for teaching, for research, and professional staff. I really do want ANU to be the best place in the world to work. We simply have to succeed. In a world of pandemic, of climate change, profound economic, social, and gender inequalities, the spread of populism, the weakening of global institution and rising tensions, our work is needed more than ever before. We cannot just wait for someone else to do it. Without it, democracy is imperiled, peace is uncertain, and millions of lives are placed at risk. Where would our world be right now without the research of its universities? I want everyone to think about that. How dire would our circumstances be if university laboratories hadn't so rapidly understood the nature of COVID-19, developed vaccines against it, and trained health professionals to lead the fight against it? This is one of the great human triumphs of our time, if you think about it. And it happened because since World War II, since the founding of ANU, nations have had the foresight to invest heavily in universities, the knowledge they produce, and the human capital they train. The world, through COVID-19, has been given a wake-up call. And that wake-up call is this: first, know the nature of things. It is only by actually knowing the nature of things that we can be fully armed against anything nature throws at us in the future. So on the 75th anniversary of ANU, I want to reach out to the Australian people to say this: we are here to serve. Believe in us, support us, give us your trust so we can first know the nature of things as the first step to creating a better nation and a better world. Help us create the knowledge that will allow us to generate the new ideas needed, for example, to create new partnerships with industry to increase innovation, prosperity, and jobs. New understanding so that we can keep the Asia-Pacific peaceful and democratic. New and better practices in health and social policy that make all of our lives better. New technologies necessary to decarbonize the global economy, but once again bring Australia prosperity. New and better engagement with our First Nations people so we can be fully reconciled. And new ways to make artificial intelligence work ethically in the interest of humanity. There is so much practical good we can contribute to increase the prosperity and well-being of Australians and the people of the world. And that is why our strategic plan sets the goal of the university creating at least one major transformational societal outcome that has its origin in our academic work. This could be a major scientific discovery, could be a public policy innovation, or a new piece of research translated and commercialized. I don't care. But that transformation of first knowing the nature of things, that foundational work we all do, and then making it have impact, that is something we should aspire to. One of my personal goals as Vice-Chancellor is to give everyone who comes here a great academic experience. I want to offer stimulating teaching, do truly groundbreaking research, engage in fearless intellectual discussion, while at the same time allowing people to make lifelong friendships and enjoy the sheer fun that comes from being in a great campus university in the heart of a sophisticated capital city. To do this, we need to maintain our great liberal academic culture, which rests on the crucial principle of academic freedom. As we confront the next 5 years of ANU's history, we must therefore be clear about just what academic freedom means and how it has been practiced successfully here for 75 years. Academic freedom starts with the university's autonomy. As a university, we must be free to control our internal affairs, regulate our debates, and set our agenda free from outside interference. Academic freedom also means the freedom to investigate and publish free of censorship or threat. And it means having a right to respectfully disagree with others, including our own members of our own university. And I want you to note that term, respectfully disagree. Disagree does not stop intellectual progress. Neither does competition. Expressed through civilized debate, both are essential parts of an intellectual ecosystem conducive to discovery. What stops intellectual progress dead in its tracks is unreasonable, incessant, and often cynically contrived conflict. The current pandemic is instructive of the value of these great academic traditions we have inherited. Following the emergence of COVID-19, there was a race amongst global laboratories to understand the virus and develop an effective vaccine against it. The stakes were high, but the level of respect, cooperation, and sharing of scientific information between the competing medical research teams was strong and genuine, and the results are there for everyone to see. That's how knowledge advances. Through competition, not conflict, cooperation, not division, respect, not abuse. Some people regard conflict as an end in itself. They believe that unless freedom of speech on campus is constantly pushed to its very limits, regardless of the consequences, it is not real. I respectfully disagree. Conflict is not what universities are about. You do not have the right to abuse and attack others on a university campus. You have a responsibility to debate them peacefully, respectfully, constructively, and fully. To continue their great work for humanity, universities need to create an academic culture that allows freedom of expression without abuse and aggression. Unbounded inquiry, freedom of expression, strong debate, a sometimes competitive environment, and a respectful culture that protects everyone's freedom to pursue ideas rather than silencing them with abuse. These are our standards, and we will have zero tolerance for behavior that falls below them. Another crucial principle for universities is having a just admissions system. In my view, the most just admissions system is one based on an individual student's potential. In our unequal world, in which those with great natural abilities are often unfairly held back by personal circumstance, achieving equity is seldom straightforward, but it must be our goal. ANU is the only research university in the country whose intended student catchment zone is the entire nation. Every year, young people join us from right across Australia, north, south, east, west, every state and territory. They come to Canberra. This is, after all, what makes us Australia's national university in the eyes of many. And people right around the world recognize this. Yet I often find myself questioning whether or not this goal of representing the entirety of Australia is entirely fulfilled. The reason is simple and obvious. Moving interstate to study is expensive. Living at home costs far less. There is not adequate support from the government. It is far easier to stay in your hometown and go to a local university. And why not? We have many good universities across Australia. I suspect that many young Australians capable of coming to ANU fail to even consider applying because calculations like these are so daunting for them. They can still dream of a good education and get it, but maybe by dreaming a little cheaper rather than coming and studying here at ANU, where they can sit alongside a cross-section of some of our nation's brightest scholars. And I think it's time we address this. In recent years, the ANU has made great strides forward in attracting the best young minds based on potential. A great example has been our Cambry scholarships for Indigenous students. Another has been our innovative new admissions policy that offers places based on year 11 results, so students can actually have a few months to figure out how they're going to run the rest of their lives, rather than having to make a decision in a few minutes at the very beginning of an academic year. We must do more. And that's why between now and 2025, we will be putting in place policies to ensure no student who has what it takes to get to ANU will need to dream cheaper and choose somewhere else. A new scholarship program will offer successful applicants a place to live on campus in their first year and provide crucial financial and pastoral support for the rest of their degree. Money worries should no longer be a reason any talented Australian should not be able to study at their university of choice, and especially not at their national university. This is a simple and bold idea, but we will be the first to realize it across Australia. We also need to ensure that our teaching staff are selected on potential. That means having active recruitment policies and plans that aim for gender equality. The gulf in opportunity between genders in Australia remains wide, despite all the gains made in recent times. And this includes in our universities' careers. In many disciplines, women's participation at the highest levels is shockingly low, and in some of those disciplines, they depart at 2 to 3 times the rate of their male counterparts. I can recall when my own discipline of astronomy had no continuing female staff members. There's still a long way to go in so many disciplines, including astronomy, even though progress is being made. With real effort, employment equality is possible and within our reach. Decisive action, though, is needed to hasten that rate of change so that it happens in our lifetimes, not in our children's 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 lifetimes. And that's why from today, the university will be asking each part of the university to develop a plan that leads to gender equality within an agreed time frame, using and inspired by some local work that the novel workforce planning modeling that Professor Lisa Cooley has developed and which featured in Nature. You can plan, actually quite accurately. Each school is going to have a different time horizon and path depending on their circumstances. Equality can be attained sooner than you think, but you need to have a plan and act on it. It certainly is not going to be achieved unless we take action that is long-term and sustainable. And of course, our charted course for the next 5 years includes our commitment to addressing climate change. I don't need to spell out to this audience the urgency required to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and I'm sure you've been watching the extreme global weather events of recent months. The new ANU Institute for Climate, Energy, and Disaster Solutions has been established to bring knowledge to bear on this global crisis. The inclusion of disaster in the title tells you all you need to know. The Anthropocene is already here. We have to stop its disastrous consequences from worsening and adapt. As a public institution, ANU has to find solutions and set an example. As a self-governing community, we can show the world what is possible. For that reason, one of the most important goals of our strategic plan is to advance our Below Zero initiative. Our goal to be carbon neutral by just 2025 and carbon negative by 2030 by cutting our own fossil fuel use and boosting carbon sequestration to offset the emissions we cannot avoid has to be actioned. We, of course, aim to make a difference on a global scale through the quality of our climate change research. This needs to be a whole of ANU strategy. Already, we're replacing gas boilers with renewably powered electric heat pumps, and we have our first electric charging station on campus, part of understanding energy use dynamics. It's near the engineering part of the university. We're, of course, continuing to work closely with the ACT government on a partnership to cover climate change and energy issues. We're very lucky to have them as a partner. Indeed, one of our best examples of our important work here is the newly launched Distributed Energy Resources Lab. This new lab will help build a greener climate and climate change resilient electricity grid for Australia. It's a genuine testing bed to test the new technologies that will have to underpin the energy grids of tomorrow and even today. Hopefully, we're going to see businesses, government, and researchers from across the country make sure renewable and cleaner and greener energy is available and the technologies around them work and deliver for Australia and the world on a scale that ultimately brings all 8 billion of the people of Earth into this technology envelope. It is just one example of how ANU Spark drives change in our world for a better world. As the Chancellor and I state in the foreword to our new strategic plan, creating ANU was a courageous and visionary response to a time of crisis, one that also focused on the future. That crisis, of course, was the Second World War. And of course, we are now living in a new era of crisis. Just a few years ago, 2021, with its pandemic, extreme weather, and other troubles, would have seemed almost dystopian. The answer today is the same one of our founders recognized 75 years ago. First, to know the nature of things. In other words, to advance human knowledge so that we can solve problems and build understandings between people. All are achieved through the maintenance of the great liberal tradition of academic freedom and through intellectual cooperation, knowledge sharing, and mutual respect. These sorts of things are easy to say, but here at the ANU, we've been doing them every day for the last 27,000 days. And in doing so, we are demonstrating our continuing relevance, creating an exciting place in which to teach, research, and learn. Now, as I finish up, I would like to welcome Rosemary Clifford to speak, one of our students. Rose completed a double degree in arts and psychology with honors in 2018 and is now completing her PhD in psychology here at ANU. Rose is a very passionate advocate for mental health, drawing on her own personal experiences with mental health struggles to help inform research proposal and grant applications, as well as assisting in education and professional development of occupational therapists and psychologists in the ACT. Rose co-designed a number of mental health education programs which have been rolled out across Canberra to help our youth. She volunteers with Mental Illness Education ACT and assists Lifeline Australia by answering the crisis hotline. She was also the 2020 recipient of the Young Canberra Citizen of the Year. So Rose, you've done some incredible work in this space already in your very young life. You are helping literally change the lives of many young Australians for the better. And so please, all of us, join me in welcoming Rosemary Clifford.
So hello, hopefully you can hear me. As was mentioned, I do a lot in the mental health space because I experience mental health myself. So that's my anxiety level right now. I'm going to try and keep that under wraps, but if I stumble, you know why. So I've been asked to speak to you today about my experience as a student here at the ANU, and particularly my postgraduate work. But before I start, I would like to say that today, as a student and a woman, I stand here in solidarity with the survivors of SASH, and I recognise and acknowledge the importance that August 1st has for them. I would also like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So, my time here at the ANU has been the most rewarding experience of my life, but also the most terrifying. Being a student at a top-ranked university is no easy feat, and managing my mental health while achieving my academic goals proved more difficult than anticipated. However, I've been very lucky to have received an amazing amount of support from the students and the faculty I've met here. Ultimately, my biggest challenge so far has been in my PhD, and it has been my experience as a postgraduate student. With no assignments and no exams, you are faced with just you and your ideas, and that's scary. But you also find out just how much you can achieve on your own. I've been challenged, pushed out of my comfort zone, and been given opportunities to grow and develop that I wouldn't otherwise have had I chosen a different university. I am the person I am today because of my experiences here at the ANU, and in particular because of the amazing students and faculty I have had the pleasure of meeting. Doing a PhD is no easy feat. The imposter syndrome and the sometimes isolating interdependence can be really tough, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I'll let you know if I ever do. However, through the challenges and difficulties, of which there have been many, I have found myself. I've been lucky to have been supported by some amazing people along the way, in particular my amazing supervisor, Liz Rager. Thank you. The ANU has been my home for the last 8 years, and I hope it will continue to be my home for the foreseeable future. But sometimes your home could do with some improvements. A reno, big or small, a new kitchen, replace the carpets, etc. So while I have had the privilege of the amazing experiences and positive impacts the ANU has had on my life, and I'm sure many of your lives, I'm not blind to the fact that there are areas in need of improvement. Based on my experience, we, as the students, can only reach our full potential when we feel supported and safe. This strategic plan speaks to the recognition of this need, and through the promise to prioritise the experience of students, equity, inclusion and safety. I believe it will mark the first of many steps needed in the right direction. The ANU has proven that it is able to grow and improve in business, research, on a global scale, whatever it chooses to direct its attention towards and determined to achieve in. Now in 2021, we see a commitment to grow and improve in its student experience, equality, equity and inclusion. A commitment I feel is its most important and valuable yet. I see this plan as a promise to students, a promise to do better, to improve in the areas needed, and an acceptance of the need for change, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. My hope for the ANU is that this strategic plan and the prioritisation of students and their experience will guide the policies, decisions and actions of this university and recognise the invaluable role that the student voice has in this process. After all my years here at the ANU, which is close to a decade now, I have learnt that the university's greatest asset is its students. They are its future leaders and it should be its guiding lights. I hope today will be the beginning of a new ANU that will not only be world-class in its academics and research, but a world leader in developing an inclusive and safe work environment and a culture of equality and respect for all. that in 5 years, this university will be well on its way to being world-class in providing a welcoming and safe place for all the wonderful students and faculty that come through its doors. So I'll end my speech here by saying I am optimistic we can and will do better, but only if we do it together, and only if every voice is heard and every promise is kept. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary, and indeed, ANU can only be its best if we use our entire community as one. Our students are an amazing asset of this university, as you say, but you are part of our community, just as our professional and technical staff are alongside our academic staff. And if we work together, we can be the best place to study, to work in the world. If we don't work together, then we won't be. So thank you for your words, and best of luck with your PhD. It's always one of these things where you have to find your way, as many of us in the audience know. So as we start to wind up, joining us from Perth, I would now like to introduce our Chancellor, Julie Bishop, who unfortunately, for reasons that you can imagine, has been unable to travel here. But Julie, over to you.
I welcome you to this special event to mark our university's 75th anniversary and to chart our way forward for the next 5 years through our strategic plan ANU 2025. I am joining you from Perth, the home of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we each meet today and pay our respects to their elders past and present. I welcome all our highly talented students, our hard-working academic and administrative staff, alumni and friends. I pay special tribute to the leadership of the Vice-Chancellor, for he has kept our university focused on its mission during the recent challenges and disruptions, from bushfires to hailstorms and now a global pandemic. Brian deserves high praise for his unswerving commitment to maintaining excellence in our teaching and research as he's navigated the stormy seas of the past 18 months. We are proud that ANU is the only university in the world with a Nobel laureate as Vice-Chancellor. And we have a track record in that regard. One of my predecessors, Lord Howard Florey, also a Nobel laureate, served as Chancellor from 1965 to 1968. As one would hope from a research-intensive university, we have produced a number of laureates, and I'll mention a few more shortly. That the university has been tested during the last couple of years is without question. For a time, we've been robbed of our students on campus, and many students are still forced to learn remotely. While it's not been easy, our ANU community has demonstrated its resilience and resourcefulness. That undoubtedly comes from our remarkable culture that's been nurtured over many decades since the founding of this university in 1946. Our story begins somewhat modestly, with some early scepticism. Media reports around April 1946 quietly noted the introduction of legislation into the federal parliament by the Minister for Post-War Reconstruction and Minister in charge of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, John Dedman. The Australian National University Act of 1946 was to establish the governance structures and the creation of research schools, including the John Curtin School of Medical Research and schools of Physical Sciences, Social Sciences and Pacific Studies. Then on 5th of July 1946, there was a lively debate in the House of Representatives during the second reading of the ANU Bill. Then Leader of the Opposition, Sir Robert Menzies, acknowledged the need for additional universities in post-war Australia, yet he raised concerns about the ability of the proposed national university to attract eminent academics and scientists to the small and isolated town of Canberra. He also argued that it should perhaps be a postgraduate university only and suggested that its title was somewhat pretentious for a fledgling institution yet to establish the necessary esprit de corps among its staff and students. Well, the first MP on his feet to defend the ANU bill was a young backbench member for Fremantle, Kim Beazley, who went on to serve as Education Minister from 1972 to 1975. And he said, "I'm very interested indeed in the whole project of the university at Canberra, and I am quite sure that if it is established on the lines recommended, it will add very considerably to the quality of research and education generally in the Commonwealth." Now, I feel sure Kim Beazley Sr. would have been very chuffed to know that his eldest son, born in 1948, one Kim Beazley Jr., would not only have a significant political career, but would also be appointed in 2009 Chancellor of the very same university that he, Kim Sr., supported at its creation. There were also concerns from existing universities in state capitals that funds for ANU would come out of their grants, which Minister Dedman assured the House would not be the case. Some things never change. ANU funding continues to be a source of discussion among other universities. The Act was passed by Parliament on the 1st of August 1946, and the focus then turned to building our university campus. The inspired choice for our first Vice-Chancellor was the visionary Sir Douglas Copland. His work as Australia's Prices Commissioner and economic consultant to the Prime Minister during World War II was described broadly as brilliant. His later work at ANU and as a diplomat places him among the giants of his era. He was responsible for literally laying the infrastructure and academic foundations for what has become Australia's leading university. To avoid any diplomatic unease, I should acknowledge that he came from a town south of Christchurch in New Zealand. Born in 1894, he lived through some of the most challenging times in human history, with 2 world wars and the Great Depression. The brilliant Copland legacy lives on through ANU and CEDA that he also helped establish. Legendary scientist Sir Isaac Newton famously declared that his achievements came from standing on the shoulders of giants. And that is the good fortune of all of us at ANU as we build on the work of Sir Douglas Copland. The challenge set for ANU was to be an intellectual powerhouse to help rebuild the nation after World War II, with a mandate to solve complex scientific problems, contribute to economic development and social cohesion, and improve Australia's understanding of itself and its region. So this raises the question today, has our institution risen to that challenge? I say yes, and while there are many measures of success, allow me to highlight a few to demonstrate. Both Professors Peter Doherty and Rolf Zinkernagel spent time at John Curtin School of Medical Research during their outstanding careers, sharing the 1996 Nobel Prize for Medicine for their work on human immune responses to viruses, a subject of great interest to the medical research and broader community at present. An alumni of the school, Sir John Eccles, was jointly awarded the 1963 Nobel Prize for Medicine for work partly undertaken at ANU into the study of human nerve cells. ANU also hosted Professor John Hashani, who was jointly awarded the 1994 Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences for his work in the complex field of game theory. One of his collaborators and awardees was the brilliantly flawed Princeton mathematician John Nash, whose life and work was the subject of the movie A Beautiful Mind, starring Russell Crowe. Okay, he's a New Zealander, so I won't claim him. Arguably, ANU's greatest contribution to Australia has been through our graduates, who have gone on to reach positions of leadership in organisations, communities and government throughout Australia and internationally. ANU officially began as a research university in 1946, although it was not until 1960 that undergraduates were enrolled. Those first undergraduates are still relatively young, just about to turn 80, and many remain active in their communities and careers. Specifically, ANU graduates have made a significant contribution to Australia through policy development and implementation as experts within the Australian public service. For example, many of the outstanding diplomats in the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade are our graduates, and as Foreign Minister, I relied on their skills and wisdom and insights. There's little doubt that ANU has provided an environment for personal and intellectual growth that has been of great benefit to its students and staff. However, one of its greatest achievements has been the early and ongoing development of its esprit de corps, its character, and that comes from the student experience and our people. Thinking back to the times of our founding, it actually was an audacious idea to establish a new university on a greenfield site in the relatively isolated and small community of Canberra. Australia had a small population of 7.5 million. Technology was only just starting to overcome the tyranny of distance. Women had only just been elected to serve in federal parliament, and that number was just 2 in 1943. However, we can place ANU's founding in the context of the optimism that prevailed here and in many parts of the world, that better times lay ahead after the horrors of World War II. The United States had emerged as the preeminent international power, leading the development of the United Nations and other organisations in an effort to bring greater stability to the world. There was a collective will to develop a rules-based international order to prevent conflict between nations. In 1946, the first ever United Nations Security Council elections were held, and Australia was elected as a member and as the first president of the Security Council. Australia was a more confident and independent nation, having established in 1946 our first formal diplomatic post outside London with an embassy in Washington. It was a time of inspiration and innovation for our national leaders who dared to think big and act on those dreams and hopes. ANU is the embodiment of that vision. On our 75th anniversary, I also ask, does our nation make enough use of its own national university? I think the answer is no. Actually, there's far more that can and should be done. ANU is an extraordinary national treasure which must never be taken for granted. The world is entering a new era of great power competition, most notably between the United States and China. The policy challenges for Australia in navigating the more challenging times ahead will require insights and wisdom from our leading thinkers, policymakers and legislators. The fourth industrial revolution, the technology revolution, is transforming our lives, and the greatest technological advancements and disruptions still lie ahead. Climate change is a global threat to Australia and the nations of the South Pacific. Government financial responses to the 2008 global financial crisis and now the global pandemic are unprecedented in sheer scale, with longer-term implications difficult to forecast. So as these complex issues continue to challenge policymakers, they will need to rely increasingly on the intellectual support of institutions, including universities. ANU was established for precisely that purpose, and I am confident that our people can and will rise to meet these current and future challenges. My hope is that in, say, 25 years' time, when we celebrate ANU's centenary, we will be recognised even more broadly for our vital role in Australia's national development. So happy 75th anniversary to this great national institution, from its humble beginnings to the world-class university it is today. Thank you.
And thank you, Julie. Really appreciate you being able to connect us to the issues of the past political, to the political reality today and into the future. And I'm sorry that you're not going to be able to be here to join us as part of our barbecue, and I'm also sorry that you're not here to join me to go have a chat with our students, which I will be doing here in just a second outside. Our strategic plan is officially on our website. I encourage you to go and, from the ANU homepage, read it, see it, and live it. For now, I'd like you now to join me and everyone else on University Avenue lawn for a BBQ, a barbecue. Our students are waiting for us out through there. If you would, and I encourage you to see our students, but if you're more comfortable, you can exit from the side. But I will be out talking to our students. Thank you one and all on this great day of ANU's 75-year history, but may it be just a little drop in the ocean of what comes for the future. Thank you all.